The moment the last breath leaves the body, the soul faces its most important test, and it lasts only a few brief moments. These first minutes after death are not just a passage, they are the turning point that determines the soul's entire journey beyond the physical world. Edgar Cayce revealed that in this fleeting instant, our thoughts, emotions, and inner state become powerful forces, shaping the bridge or the barrier between worlds. It is not angels or judgment that decide what comes next, but the soul's own consciousness at the moment of crossing. Today, we will uncover the hidden truth of what happens in those first sacred moments, why they hold unimaginable weight, and how the energy we carry at the time of death can open the way to higher realms, or tether us to shadows we have yet to overcome. According to Edgar Cayce's readings, the first moments after death are not an abrupt end, but a profound awakening. The soul, once freed from the physical body, experiences an immediate shift, a sense of liberation from the heavy limitations of flesh. There is a sudden expansion of consciousness, as if the walls that once enclosed perception have fallen away, revealing a vast and vibrant reality previously hidden from view. For many souls, this initial sensation is one of overwhelming lightness, a feeling of release and tremendous peace. However, Cayce emphasized that not every soul experiences this transition in the same way. The state of mind at the time of death plays a decisive role in shaping what the soul perceives immediately afterward. Souls who pass from this life with a sense of love, trust, and acceptance often find themselves gently lifted into realms of light, greeted by familiar presences, or enveloped in waves of indescribable peace. For these souls, the separation from the body feels natural, almost joyful, as they recognize that they are stepping into a larger, more luminous existence. Yet, for souls burdened by fear, anger, guilt, or deep attachment to earthly concerns, the first moments can be confusing and disorienting. Cayce described that a soul entangled in strong negative emotions may not immediately realize that it has left the physical world. It may continue to cling to familiar places, people, or even routines, unable to fully detach from its former life. This confusion can create a kind of gray, foggy environment around the soul, reflecting the turmoil within its own consciousness. In these first minutes, the soul is exceptionally sensitive. Thoughts are not just fleeting ideas. They shape the very environment the soul encounters. Positive, loving thoughts draw the soul toward beings of light and higher realms of understanding. Fearful, resentful, or obsessive thoughts, by contrast, can pull the soul into lower vibrational planes where confusion, isolation, or even self-created illusions persist. Cayce likened this to stepping into a dream of one's own making, where the inner world becomes the outer reality almost instantly. This delicate period is why the state of consciousness at the moment of death is so crucial. The beliefs, emotions, and dominant thoughts a person holds in their final breath do not simply vanish, they imprint the soul's immediate experience beyond the body. If a soul has cultivated faith, hope, forgiveness, and love during life, it finds itself attuned to the higher energies that naturally lift it toward the realms of peace. If, however, the soul has been consumed by bitterness, regret, or denial, it may linger in self-created shadows until it awakens to its true state and seeks the light. Cayce's readings also highlighted that the soul is not judged or condemned during this transition. There is no external force imposing punishment or reward. Instead, the soul encounters the natural consequences of its own inner state. In this way, the first moments after death serve as a mirror, an honest, immediate reflection of the soul's accumulated consciousness. There is profound justice and mercy in this process. Every soul creates its own passage, guided not by arbitrary decrees, but by the deep energies it has chosen to nurture throughout its life. For those who have lived with conscious spiritual preparation, death is a passage into greater freedom and beauty. For those who have lived in fear or denial, death is a call to awaken, to release the illusions they once clung to, and to begin the journey toward healing. In either case, the opportunity for growth and movement toward the light remains ever present. Thus, the first moments after death are both delicate and decisive. They reveal the soul's true orientation and set the tone for its immediate journey in the spirit world. Cayce's insights remind us that death is not something to be feared, but a moment to be prepared for with great reverence and care. The thoughts we carry at the final threshold are not meaningless. They are powerful keys that open the doors we will walk through into the next chapter of existence. In Edgar Cayce's view of the afterlife, one of the most important and perhaps least understood truths is the immense power of thought. In the physical world, thoughts may seem abstract, fleeting, or easily ignored. But beyond the body, in the first moments after death, thoughts are no longer passive. They become active energy, vibrations that instantly shape the reality the soul experiences. In those early stages of transition, there is no longer a buffer of time or material delay. What a soul thinks, it sees. What it feels, it becomes. Consciousness does not merely influence the afterlife, it creates it. Cayce described the mind as the builder, not only in physical life but even more so in the spiritual dimensions. At the moment of death, the boundaries that separate inner and outer worlds dissolve. A soul filled with thoughts of love, trust, and surrender will be immediately drawn toward the frequencies that match those vibrations, toward light, guidance, and higher realms of peace. Such a soul may perceive warm, welcoming presences, a radiant environment filled with clarity and beauty, or even a sense of familiar spiritual companionship. This is not the result of luck or divine favor, but of resonance. Love attracts love. Light attracts light. On the other hand, a soul that crosses over while gripped by fear, resentment, guilt, or denial may experience a very different transition. Thoughts filled with confusion or anger magnetize the soul to lower energetic planes, realms that feel heavy, cloudy, and disconnected from the warmth of divine presence. Cayce emphasized that these are not hellish punishments inflicted by an outside force. They are self-created landscapes, reflections of the soul's own emotional and mental state. These realms exist as temporary spaces where the soul confronts its inner discord, not to suffer eternally, but to awaken and heal. This is why thoughts at the time of death, and in the moments leading up to it, matter so deeply. The momentum of a lifetime's thinking patterns often culminates in those final breaths. A soul that has cultivated kindness, forgiveness, and humility will carry those energies with it. Likewise, a life dominated by bitterness or fear will imprint those qualities into the soul's immediate post-death experience. The thoughts we leave with become the architecture of the world we enter. Cayce's readings also reveal that this reality is not fixed. Even souls who initially find themselves in states of confusion or darkness are not abandoned. As soon as a soul shifts its focus toward prayer, surrender, or even a sincere desire for truth, it begins to rise. Thoughts are the vehicle of motion in the afterlife. A single thought of love, a moment of true longing for light, can initiate a change in vibration and direction. The soul is always free to move upward, always capable of transforming its inner state and thus its surroundings. This understanding reveals a profound spiritual law. The afterlife is not imposed upon us, it emerges from within us. We carry into the next world exactly what we have cultivated in this one. The lessons of love, compassion, and spiritual awareness are not simply moral ideals. They are tools of navigation, enabling the soul to find its way home. The more we align with these energies in life, the more naturally we align with them in death. Moreover, Cayce warned that the soul does not gain access to higher realms simply by professing belief or following ritual. It is the actual substance of the soul, the thought patterns, the emotional tone, the depth of sincerity, that determines its next steps. In this way, every day of life is preparation for death. Every thought we nurture becomes part of the landscape we will one day walk through. This insight invites us to live more consciously, not out of fear, but out of reverence for the incredible creative power we hold. If our thoughts shape reality beyond the veil, then cultivating peace, gratitude, faith, and love in this world is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves as eternal beings. In the end, Cayce's message is clear. The moment of death is not an ending, but a threshold. And on that threshold, our thoughts become our wings or our chains. Through this understanding, we begin to see that preparing for death is not about rituals or fear. It is about how we think, how we love, and how we meet each moment with the awareness that consciousness never ends. It only expands. Beyond thoughts alone, Edgar Cayce emphasized that it is the deeper, sustained inner condition of the soul, its emotional tone, its orientation toward love or fear, peace or unrest, that determines the direction it will take immediately after death. In Cayce's readings, the soul does not move randomly through the afterlife. It is drawn, magnetically and precisely, to the realm that resonates with its own energetic frequency. The state of one's inner being becomes the compass that guides the soul through the unseen. This inner state is not defined by brief moods or temporary emotions, but by the overall harmony or disharmony that the soul has cultivated over time. A person who lives with a heart rooted in compassion, humility, and trust in the divine builds a spiritual foundation that remains intact at the moment of death. When such a soul crosses over, it is immediately lifted toward the realms of light, not through reward, but through resonance. Light attracts light. Peace attracts peace. Cayce described that many of these souls are met right away by loving beings, guides, teachers, or even departed loved ones who help orient them to their new reality. These encounters are not symbolic. They are real interactions occurring on a vibrational plane that matches the soul's clarity and openness. The presence of such light beings reflects the soul's own light, built over lifetimes of sincere effort, forgiveness, and alignment with spiritual principles. These souls feel safe, guided, and even joyful as they awaken on the other side, because their inner state matches the frequency of truth, love, and divine order. Conversely, souls who pass with unresolved bitterness, deep fear, or resistance to spiritual truth may find themselves in a far less welcoming environment. Not because they are punished, but because the vibration of their inner state naturally leads them to a place that reflects it. Cayce spoke of gray places, realms neither painful nor peaceful, where the soul lingers in confusion or inertia. These are not eternal limbos, but temporary zones of reflection, where the soul is gently encouraged to awaken, to release its attachments, and to seek clarity. In more difficult cases, Cayce described souls who entered dense or shadowy states, trapped not by external forces, but by their own unwillingness to let go of anger, guilt, or self-deception. These souls are not lost, they are loved deeply, but they may be unaware of the light still available to them. Their journey begins with a process of recognition, often sparked by inner longing, regret, or the faint memory of something purer. Once the soul turns toward that memory, even in the smallest degree, it begins to rise. Cayce's message is profound in its implications. We are not judged by a higher being deciding our fate. We are drawn to the realm that reflects our true self. Heaven and hell are not assigned locations, they are states of being, and those states have weight. They draw us into alignment with others and with environments that mirror what we have become. That is why the cultivation of one's inner life is so important, not just in dramatic moments, but in the quiet, invisible decisions we make each day. A life lived with integrity, kindness, patience, and spiritual trust creates a resonance that remains even after the body is gone. That resonance becomes the bridge between worlds. Cayce often emphasized that no soul is ever abandoned. Even those who find themselves in darkness are surrounded by unseen helpers, ready to respond the moment the soul opens, however slightly, to the presence of divine love. This inner turning can take moments or what we perceive as years, but it always begins with a shift in consciousness. The soul remembers its source and the journey toward light resumes. In this way, the afterlife is deeply just, but also deeply merciful. The soul is never condemned. It is, rather, met exactly where it is and offered the precise conditions needed for growth. The inner state we carry, the habits of our heart, are not erased at death. They come with us, forming the foundation of our next step in consciousness. Understanding this, we begin to see that our daily spiritual work matters immensely. The patience we show, the forgiveness we offer, the fears we overcome, all of it becomes part of the soul's tone. And that tone, more than anything, determines where we go when the final breath has passed and the real journey begins. Edgar Cayce taught that the most important preparation for death does not begin in the final hours of life. It begins long before, in the quiet and often unnoticed moments of daily living. The soul's ability to navigate the first threshold after death is shaped not only by beliefs or rituals, but by the inner life cultivated across time. The thoughts we nurture, the emotions we carry, and the way we treat others become the raw material of our consciousness, an energy signature that endures beyond the grave. Cayce explained that the soul does not suddenly become enlightened upon leaving the body. Instead, it arrives in the next realm, carrying the vibration it developed on Earth. If a person has spent a life nurturing love, kindness, forgiveness, and service, that resonance naturally lifts the soul into alignment with higher spiritual realities. The consciousness shaped by humility and compassion becomes a kind of passport, allowing the soul to move smoothly through the initial stages of transition. In contrast, if a soul has been immersed in fear, resentment, material obsession, or bitterness, its energy may be heavy and fragmented. This does not mean the soul is condemned, but it may find the transition more difficult. Cayce emphasized that the moment of death is not a magical escape, but a continuation of the soul's present state. Death does not erase who we are, it reveals it. And that revelation is shaped by the life we lived before the final breath. This is why conscious spiritual practice during life is so vital. It is not about religious observance or external appearances, but about deep inner alignment. A person who strives to be honest, to forgive those who wrong them, to care for others, and to stay connected to the divine is slowly preparing their soul for a peaceful and elevated passage. These acts become habits of the heart, and those habits shape the soul's orientation at death. Cayce also made it clear that spiritual work continues beyond the grave. The soul does not stop growing after death. In fact, many of the lessons we begin on earth continue in the spiritual world. The difference is that in the spiritual dimension, growth occurs more through awareness and intention than through physical experience. The soul is offered opportunities to review, reflect, and realign, but it brings into that work whatever foundation was laid during earthly life. Service to others, Cayce taught, is one of the most powerful forms of preparation. When we help, heal, or lift another, we not only change their lives, we elevate our own vibration. The soul that learns to live not for itself, but for the greater good, builds a momentum of light that carries forward into the afterlife. That light is what attracts spiritual guidance, clarity, and peace in the moments after death. Likewise, the practice of forgiveness is essential. Unforgiven wounds, grudges, and regrets act as heavy cords that weigh the soul down. Releasing these emotions during life frees the soul to move more easily when the body falls away. Forgiveness is not only a gift to others, it is liberation for the one who carries it. Cayce reminded his followers that no effort is ever wasted. Even small acts of kindness, moments of prayer, or silent decisions to choose love over fear are recorded in the soul's energy field. These choices, made again and again, build a pattern of consciousness that becomes the soul's natural orientation, an inner compass that will guide it after death, just as it does in life. Thus, spiritual preparation is not about waiting for the end. It is about living fully now, with presence, purpose, and awareness. The more we align with the qualities of the soul, truth, love, patience, humility, the more we are able to transition into the next realm with grace and clarity. And the more we realize that the journey does not end with death, the more meaningful this present life becomes. In Cayce's vision, life and death are not two separate realities, but one continuous process of becoming. Every thought, every word, every choice adds to the tapestry of the soul. When death comes, it is not the closing of a book, but the turning of a page. And the way we have written our story so far will influence how that next chapter begins. In the philosophy of Edgar Cayce, death is not a wall, but a mirror. A moment of profound reflection, where the soul, stripped of all earthly roles and illusions, comes face to face with its truest essence. In those first minutes after the final breath, there is no more pretending, no more hiding behind status, titles, appearances, or belief systems. The soul encounters itself exactly as it is, its vibration, its light, its wounds, its wisdom, and this self-recognition determines what comes next. Cayce taught that this experience is not judgment in the traditional sense. There is no divine tribunal, no external authority pronouncing punishment or reward. Instead, the soul simply sees the truth. It sees what it has built within, what it has avoided, what it has loved, and what it has feared. In this moment, everything that was hidden becomes visible, not to others, but to the soul itself. This is the true test. And the beauty of it lies in its fairness. No one else defines the soul's condition, it reveals itself. For those who have lived in alignment with love, compassion, and spiritual growth, this unveiling is a reunion. It is the soul remembering who it truly is, an eternal spark of the divine. There is a feeling of homecoming, of expanding into light, and of joyful recognition of the sacred purpose behind all past struggles. These souls often feel themselves lifted gently into greater awareness, surrounded by beings of light, guided toward the next steps in their evolution with clarity and peace. But for those who have lived out of fear, resentment, denial, or self-centeredness, the mirror may show something more difficult. There may be disorientation, a sense of being lost, or a realization of spiritual truths long ignored. Yet even this confrontation is not punishment, it is opportunity. Cayce emphasized that the soul always has the freedom to choose. Once the truth is seen, even if it is painful, the soul can begin again. It can seek healing, understanding, and redemption. The mirror is not there to condemn, but to awaken. This is the higher meaning of the first moments after death. They reflect the culmination of a lifetime. All our choices, habits, thoughts, and attitudes are gathered into a single vibration. That vibration speaks more loudly than any doctrine or belief. It is the soul's living energy. In this sense, every day of our lives is preparation for this sacred unveiling. Every act of love builds clarity. Every act of fear clouds it. And every moment is a chance to choose again. Cayce's vision offers us not fear, but responsibility. It reminds us that our lives matter, not only in what we do, but in who we become. Death does not erase us, it reveals us. And what is revealed can be healed, transformed, and brought into greater harmony with the divine. There is no soul beyond redemption, but the path is made easier for those who begin the work now. Understanding this, we see that spiritual practice is not just about comfort or belief. It is about preparing the soul for its return to truth. When we live with awareness, kindness, humility, and courage, we shape the inner being that will meet itself in that final mirror. We write the script not of how we will die, but of how we will awaken. So let us live each day with intention. Let us forgive more freely, love more fully, and remember more deeply who we truly are. For one day we will stand in the great silence after the final breath, and everything we have become will rise before us, not to shame us, but to show us the next step on our eternal journey. In that moment, we will not be asked who we were in the world, but how deeply we lived from the soul. That moment is not far away. It is already forming, shaped by every thought, every choice, every breath we take. And when it arrives, it will not be unfamiliar. It will be the most honest reflection we have ever seen. Let it be one of light. Do you believe in the rebirth of souls? Write in the comments. Dear friends, if you like this video, please like it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you soon.